Right, well, we're going to get started. I'd like to welcome everyone to the MFC Group's FasTech seminar series, hosted by Mel Foster, EAS and TMC. Thank you for joining us today. We're spotlighting the ISOLOSS LS Foams for use in applications such as BSR prevention, shock absorption, and vibration dampening. Our speakers for this 30-minute seminar are Paige Wera and Joe Petrie from 3M. Everyone is muted, so please type any questions you may have into the meeting chat, and Joe will monitor those and will answer the questions either during the presentation or during the Q&A at the end. So Paige and Joe, I'd like to turn it over to you.
Robin, thank you. Hi, everyone. My name is Paige Wera, and I am the product marketer and activation marketer for the ISOLOSS LS polyurethane foam line. Super excited to be here today, and I'll let Joe introduce himself.
Oh, okay. Good afternoon, everybody, and thanks for joining our event today. I'm Joe Petrie. I work with Paige Wera here as a product and application support. I support the entire Mel Foster sales organization for a variety of products for your next electronic assembly solution, whether that be for high temperature masking, thermally conductive, keeping electronics cool, or even grounding and shielding for electromagnetic interference solutions. But today we're talking about vibration dampening, BSR as in buzz, squeak, and rattle, and the ISOLOSS LS polyurethane foam products. Thanks for being here.
Joe, you sound so good. You should be an announcer. So, like I said, we're going to be talking about ISOLOSS LS polyurethane foam. Although for Mel Foster, they do carry most of these other product lines as well. So if any of these catch your attention, you go, oh yeah, I might have an opportunity for this. I want to talk to someone. Please feel free to reach out after. We work with all of these product lines. We already did our intros there. So today, 30 minutes, we're going to make it short and sweet and as engaging as possible. So for those of you that don't know what the product is, what is it? We're going to do some live demos. I'm going to, show you what this foam actually looks like.
Yep.
We're going to talk about where LS foam wins. So, how do you know if LS foam is a good fit for your application? And then we're going to review some applications that we won and talk about why LS foam won in that application. And then you can start to think about, what are the applications that I have? We might be talking about a dishwasher, but if you work with, laundry units, then it's going to be very similar, the type of solution you would probably need in one of those. And with that, I will get started.
Perfect.
So for some of you that are big with the product chemistry, this is a microcellular polyurethane foam. It is an open cell foam, meaning that there's basically air and gas in these little cells. And that means that when it's open cells, there's going to be more air than there is for closed cells. So it's easier to compress this foam, which is why it's so great for, your buzz, squeak, and rattle. You need something that's really going to cushion it and stop that vibrations. It's also used for your gasketing and sealing applications. It is a polyether polyurethane foam. This is the most common type of polyurethane foam that you're going to find for these types of applications. And then it does come with a PCK removable liner. You're not going to be the one who's probably converting it, so it doesn't matter too much to you, but we do usually have it where this could be a gasket or a seal. We'll have a adhesive that's laminated to the back. So let's say you've got a vacuum cleaner, you've got utility enclosure door, just the foam for cushioning might not be enough. You might need something that's going to stick it in place. So 3M has a lot of adhesives, and we've already done the work to figure out what works best for your application. So it's kind of like having your go-to solution for polyurethane foam and tapes, right here through 3M. So what we like to call LS foam is an all-purpose cushioning foam because it's used for a little bit of everything. And we talked about the kind of shock control, vibration damping, gasketing, and sealing. I mean, where it can be used is endless, and I learn more every day. So for it to be, an all-purpose foam, that means that it's got to work in a lot of different applications across many different market segments. So it's got to be durable. It's got to have, good corrosion resistance, chemical resistance, temperature. It has to be able to perform well, make sure that it stays soft and maintains its compression set. And when, the temperatures are really low or really hot, it's very important for these foams. And just making sure what we call force deflection is that when it gets hotter, sometimes the compression set can reduce. So it's not going to squeeze as much, which means if you're using this for, let's say, a gap filler, because that's what's going to reduce vibrations. If it's a little bit harder, it's not going to fill all those gaps. So it might not have the vibration support that you're going to need. We have quite a large portfolio available of these foams. So we have soft and very soft. The one I'm showing is the very soft. It comes in different densities. So depending on your needs, you might need something different. So we have between 10 and 25 pounds. We've got 8 thicknesses in varying densities. So you're able to get what you need. And we also can work with you on any compression force deflection help that you need to figure out, well, what thickness do I need, depending on how much you're going to compress the foam. So when it comes to LS Foams, I was talking about, we've got a big variety here. So it's 26. When I'm, kind of talking about in the previous slide, I'm seeing a few things, but here kind of shows you our full portfolio. And we are taking note of, anything that, you have a use for, and maybe you don't see that thickness here, please let us know, because we'll add it to our list. We're always trying to figure out what we need to do next.
Right in the middle of that chart is that foam density. And it's interesting, the 10 pound is more easily compressible, but the 25 pound is also compressible and also bounces back. But being a heavier weight, it requires more force to compress. I'm working on applications from heavy equipment, which might have some sort of door panel or an enclosure. The heavy equipment and the weight of the metal being used on that heavy equipment tends to lead toward those heavier pound densities. Then I'm working on applications for HVAC. They might have the same sort of application where they're trying to seal around an enclosure, but the metal used in a HVAC is so much lighter weight that they tend to migrate toward the 10 pounds. And so I get in conversations with people for electrical equipment where they're doing sealing on enclosures around the perimeter of a door, appliance, power generation, and all sorts of other electronics applications. So having this variety of densities and thicknesses allow Paige and I to dial in the correct foam for your application.
Absolutely, Joe. And if you don't know what you need, density or thickness wise, we're able to support you with that, help you figure it out. And then we've got lots of samples, a sheet roll with or without adhesive, so that you can try some of them and figure out what works best for your application. So now I'm just going to talk about a few of the different benefits. I'd say we've got 4 categories, and this will really help you see where LS foam is used and why. So we talked about gasketing and sealing a little bit. I showed you what I have here. And so having this low compression set, which I'm actually going to show you, that means that the foam is going to rebound. Really important, because if you've got an electrical enclosure, you've got, HVAC, your unit for like a door seal, that's a permanent application. And, you might have maintenance in that area too, where it's going to be, maybe the door's taken off for a little bit, it's clean, it's put back on. This is a permanent application, and the foam needs to rebound, the 1st, the 50th, the 500th time. So having a low compression set means you want that foam to rebound almost to its original thickness so that it lasts, it stays in place. So I'm going to do a little demo for you, and I think I have to maybe spotlight myself here. And do you see me full screen now?
Not completely full screen, but
okay,
that's okay.
I'll just stop.
Now we can. There we go.
Okay, so I've got 4 foams here. Right here we have the vinyl foam in gray, I've got a black foam. There's no skin on it. So I'll turn my light up a little bit so you can kind of tell. You can almost see some of the little cells. Orange silicone, and then black with skin on it. It has that smooth look. This is LS Foam. So at 8:30 a.m. this morning, I clamped these. And what I'm doing is showing the compression. So I'm going to remove the clamps from each one of these, and we're going to just look and see and think about what you're seeing. So we've got vinyl.
Does it bounce back?
Yes.
It seems to not be wanting to rebound back. It looks like the same imprint of that little clamp you got from your husband. Yep.
Yep. All right. This is our EVA foam. Not much happening here. If you can tell, I did this a couple days ago, and you can see this is the one I just did now. This is the one that I did a couple days ago.
It still hasn't rebounded. It still hasn't rebounded. Yep.
Yep. And then silicone, which is known for having a low compression set. A little better than the others, but not quite there. Now let's look at the ISOLOSS LS Foam.
And it's starting to disappear, Paige. Look at that.
Yep.
Very nice. And that's the low compression set.
Absolutely.
Meaning it wants to rebound back to its original thickness. Nice.
And I'll share
from a technical perspective, at room temperature, the ISOLOSS LS will have this low compression set back to within less than 1% of its original caliper. In some applications where it might see higher temperatures and humidity, it will rebound, but back to about 97%, which is still better than other chemistries of these foams available in the marketplace. And that's what makes this ideal for some of those gaskets and sealing applications we were talking about. Was there a question there?
Yeah.
Type it in the chat if there's a question that comes up. I'll be happy to answer that. Thanks, Paige. Keep going.
Okay. So then that was the low compression set. We have some of the other requirements that you might need as well done here. And then, like I said, with the different adhesives, we've got probably 10 different 3M laminating adhesives that we've done testing on. So if you don't know what adhesive is going to fit for you, we've already done that. We can help you out in that area as well. And then one of the other areas here is this cushioning and support. So imagine that you're kind of cushioning or you're gap filling, just providing, some support for, kind of a tolerance issue. And this happens a lot with, like heavy equipment or, just different parts, is they don't know how close these parts are going to be together, and they don't know how they're going to impact each other. So it could cause the other one to have vibrations. It could cause wear and tear. So instead they'll put a foam, and with our foam having skin on it, means that it's going to last longer. And basically they'll kind of squish it in between, compress it so that, the machine will keep working as it should, but those parts aren't going to cause wear and tear to each other. So having that low compression set combined with different stiffnesses and softnesses is really important for those types of applications. And then energy control. So a big part of the softness and conformability of the foam is really big for energy control, because like I was saying, if this foam was really rigid or if it was too dense for the application, it's not going to absorb those vibrations. You need a conformable foam to actually be able to reduce the vibrations. Like I was helping out on an opportunity for, think of like a concert, and you've got the people that are in the way back in the booth and they're doing all of the stuff. So they had a problem with this kind of wrist rest that was in front of them, and then had all their equipment. The vibrations were, causing some issues up there, and they need a foam that was conformable enough to put over this area of the equipment so that it wouldn't, kind of rattle things. So they used LS foam because it was able to conform to metal and reduce the vibrations. and not cause noise while they're trying to work. So the conformability aspect is very important in these types of applications. And then durability. So the broad temperature range, this is huge. So -40 degrees Celsius to 107 degrees Celsius. That is quite a broad temperature range, which means it's going to work in a lot of applications. And we do have really good cold flexibility as well, and brittleness temperature, meaning that it's going to it's going to maintain its kind of fit, form, and function, so that softness in colder temperatures, unlike other foams. Comes to flammability ratings, we have UL 94 HBF ratings. Like I said, it's a stronger material. We've got a good tensile and tear strength. So overall, this really is that all-purpose durable foam that can be used almost everywhere. I could probably find 10 places in my house.
Indeed, and high performing. That flammability is in our UL file number that I can share with you, but it's UL looks at it as a QMFZ2 category, and the ISOLOSS LS can pass that horizontal burn flame test down to even our 1.5 millimeter thin versions of this particular product. So it's maybe we call general purpose, but it's very high performing, and that's why we're seeing great success in so many different markets.
Yeah, absolutely. And we touched a little bit on what some of those markets were, but this gives you kind of a more visual look of what we're seeing. And I also starred here where are some of the kind of key segments where we're seeing a lot of growth. So, Joe talked about the heavy equipment, general industrial, with just having all of these door sealing applications, all of these enclosures, along with like some vibration damping and gaskets for different appliances. HVAC is just booming. There's a lot of problems with air getting through, so they need really good high performing foams to make sure that the seal is tight and there's not going to have air going through one way, making it less efficient. And then also some recreational vehicles as well. There's just a lot of different things that we're seeing right now, just different trends in the marketplace, and high performing product that can be used a little bit everywhere. And to give you even some more ideas of where this might be used, we talked about some of these, but even equipment like industrial floor sweepers, we've done Zambonis, things that have a motor or a pulsing. Think of even like your electronic toothbrush, something that's going to make it easier for the user, a blender, some of those kind of small to medium vibrations. Along with, we talked about like BSR, so tail light sealing or spoiler strip sealing to help just kind of reduce some of those vibrations.
Electronics enclosures, as that little gasket around that enclosure. Access panel is ideal, I think, for the customers that may be on the phone here today. Yep. I've got these buzz, squeak, and rattles. We use that term BSR, but buzz, squeak, and rattle inside doors where they've got this vibration occurring between the skin and the frame, and they've got to dampen that so the vehicle and the people inside that vehicle are not bothered by this hum that's occurring. So lots of applications for that, but I'm thinking about enclosure sealing, all kinds of markets too. We talked about medical there, and it's again used for gaskets and access panels and closures and things, but that kind of environment may have some chemicals that are used for wipe downs in the hospital environment. And there was some extensive testing done. These products are in fact not new. We have launched them through a converter channel here in the United States. That's actually new. So the sheer number of applications that we're finding have just been tremendous. But in medical applications where there may be a wipe down, a question came up about the durability of this ISOLOSS foam. And there was some testing that was done back when this product was originally launched, where the foam itself was exposed to products such as your organic solvents. We're talking like acetone and that other ethanol and kerosene. And the product holds up really well in those applications. However, in that hospital environment, they have a tremendous list of chemicals that can be used in that area. And I would love to see if there are specific chemicals resistance that would be required. And you could send that to me, Dave, after the call, and I could reach back into the product developers and see what kind of other chemicals that the product's been exposed to successfully in the past. So thanks for that question.
Yeah, absolutely. And then if you're thinking, all right, we've kind of learned about polyurethane foam, you're talking about LS foam, well, what's the difference between LS foam and another polyurethane foam? So I showed you the compression set. So the ability to rebound, maintain that same fit, form, and function throughout the product's life cycle. Like Joe said, less than 1% at room temp and then 3% at 70 degrees Celsius. That is better than our competitors that are going to be closer to 5%. And as you can see, like silicone, 5%, known for having a good compression set versus the 1%. I mean, you can still see that versus, I mean, you can't even tell where it is on this foam.
Anymore.
Yeah, it makes a difference. We talked about like that tensile and tear strength. We have a little bit better than some of the other polyurethane foams. So helping it last longer, be more corrosion, chemical resistant, like Joe said. We also are able to provide additional support for figuring out, what's the best product for you. Because we have done the testing to see this is how our foam will perform at 10, 20, 30, kind of a sweep all the way to the max, which is usually 70% compression. So we're able to help you, select the material that's going to work best for your application. And then I'd say maybe the biggest one is that our foam starts at 10-pound density. And we are the only ones for industrial grade polyurethane foams that start at 10 pounds. And the way that it works is the lower the density, the less expensive it is, because the more air, the less actual polyurethane. So all of the other competitors start at 15-pound density, and that's been the standard for like the past 30 years. So being able to offer 10-pound, we do a lot of conversions of taking a 15-pound foam and changing it to a 10-pound foam. So if you have an application that maybe has 15-pound and you're getting real pressure on cost reductions, what do I do? Maybe try sampling some of our 10-pound. It tends to work just as well, because when 15 is all that's been available, that's what's going to work. It has to work. So we do a lot of switching over.
We do a lot of that.
Yep.
Mm-hmm. And if you've got a foam application today and you're not quite sure what the density is and would be curious about that 10-pound, by all means, reach out to your friends at Mel Foster, EAS Sales, TMC, or myself, and we can send some sample sheets of the 10-pound density for an initial evaluation.
Absolutely. And last thing here is we already talked about samples that are available, but right now supply chain is everything. Can I get it now? So I love to say we've got a 1-roll minimum order quantity.
There are applications where the foam may have to end up being used outdoors, and the product is not new. It's been around for a number of years, and some of the original product developers had done some UV exposure, direct UV exposure testing, and the test was, per G53, it was some sort of test at 60 degrees centigrade, 4 hours, with 4 hours of condensation exposure too, and the material passed. So I don't know if that level of exposure would equate to what you might be needing in your application, Drew. But if you want to talk about that a little bit further about what you're trying to do and how much the foam will have to be exposed into that UV light, I'd be happy to speak with you after this call. Okay.
Yeah, I have some test data. I've talked quite a bit about UV testing, so I can help as well, Joe.
Yeah, that's excellent. We'll pull you in for sure. The product is not really designed for 100% submersion in water. If you have applications where it's a continuous exposure to water, this may not be the best product for creating a watertight continuous seal. okay? But it does provide a seal for water exposure when it's compressed. So that's where Paige and I pick the right density and the correct thickness to understand in your application how much it will be compressed down. Then you could then expect to have that sealing performance. Here's a good example. Paige, go ahead.
Yeah, I was going to add that we recently, our 20-pound density so far has passed the IPX7 ingress protection testing for liquids. I believe 7 is the highest that you can get when compressed to 50%. So just like in this application here, it was, picture a vent that's on the back. There's going to be a lot of humidity, condensation, but it's not submerged. It's not constantly going to be, wet. There's cycling that happens here. The foam was durable enough and able, when compressed enough, to be able to create, enough seal to keep this, kind of dishwasher vent in place and hold up, not basically deteriorate over time due to the heat or due to the water. So when we say, kind of like water sealing, it's more of a light water seal, like Joe said, where it's not going to be submerged.
For extreme water sealing, we would rely on other products such as our very high bond VHB tapes. They can be cut into gaskets. They can provide bonding, but they also provide excellent sealing. We even created some demos where they created hockey pucks filled with a red Kool-Aid liquid, and people have had those in their cars for 20 years, and I've not heard of anybody having one leak into their car just yet, Paige. So, yeah, so that VHB product crew is actually a really good product to look at too. Yeah.
In due time, I'll have this be the last one that we go over here, but we talked a lot about HVAC, and this could be very similar when thinking about enclosures as well. So this was the application I mentioned a little bit earlier. So picture kind of the back end of this. You're going to be having the filter go in, and people put it in different ways. This area has to be maintenance. They needed a long-term, permanent solution that was going to maintain that same fit and form and function throughout the entire life cycle of the product. So because what happens with their other foam is that air was getting through, it wasn't lasting, the foam wasn't lasting as long, it wasn't creating as good of a seal, and that makes it less efficient in the unit, and that costs them more money. So when we did our testing, we had them test our 15 and 10 pound. They were using a competitor's 15 pound, and we were able to get them to the 10 pound, and they saw, even better performance, and they were able to save a little bit of money. So that was check the box, easy switch for them to do. But it's also part of that, the softness of the foam to conform. So when people are putting the filter in differently, that foam is still going to stay in place and kind of mold to how it's put in. So the softness, conformability, and kind of modulus of the foam is, really what helped us win this opportunity. And last but not least, I know I haven't been able to see the chat, but do you see any applications currently or maybe on the horizon where you believe that 3M could help with some of your design challenges? Maybe if you could put that in the chat, we'll make sure that we connect. Oh, there's a poll. Look at that. All right.
Nice poll. Like it.
I like that. I haven't seen that yet.
Well, we appreciate everybody participating if you can. Go ahead, Paige.
Yeah, looks like we've got some maybes here, which is usual. Sometimes you've got really unique stuff and you just need to talk it out. So that's where Joe is and I are happy to help support with that. Were there any other questions that we didn't get to in the chat, Joe?
No, ma'am. We did well. Keeping up with that.
Okay. Okay. It's last call if there's any other questions.
You definitely want to sample this and touch and feel for your application as you're evaluating whether it be a good fit for what you're doing or not. So please reach out to your Mel Foster EAS TMC sales representative or myself, And then we work behind the scenes with Paige, and we'll have samples with or without a pressure sensitive adhesive on it for you to cut into samples or shapes and test and try in your application. Happy to help with the next design challenge.
Absolutely.
Well, thank you both, Paige and Joe. Thank you for taking the time and fitting so much information into 30 minutes. We appreciate it. I also want to thank everyone for joining us today. The seminar has been recorded, so I will be getting the link to that recording and the slide deck out to everyone. Please feel free to share those with your colleagues. And then, as Joe said, if you have any questions or would like any more information, please do reach out to your field sales representative. And since we have gone a little bit over, I'm just going to wish everyone a great afternoon. Thank you again.
Yeah, thank you, everyone.
Thanks, everybody. Bye now.
Bye.